What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Save Point Podcast, episode 25. I am one of your hosts, Alex, and I am, as always, joined by Sway. But we also have a very special guest that's worked out rather nicely because episode 25, we did want to do something kind of big for episode 25. We have Mr. Wayne, as he goes by on Twitter. Great guy. He's been absolutely freaking crushing. I mean, I don't think there's anybody doing it better than him in terms of just knowing the algorithm. But his Twitter is in the description below if you guys want to follow him. Covers Spider-Man, but also covers a boatload of other things. Gentlemen, how you doing today? The day after.
It's sinking in. It's sinking
in. What do you think, Sway? What's going on?
Overload. Massive just overload of everything that came out. There was a lot of things that I loved to see, and then there was I was expecting a little bit more, but the things that I loved, I really loved. And it's an exciting time to be a gamer again.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah, it was now I called it, and I don't think it was all that controversial. I called it the most uneven show I think I've ever seen in my life. Because
I agree.
And people there was actually a shocking amount of non-console warriors like in the comments there. I did get, some people were saying, just say it. It was awful. Or there were a couple people defending Sony. Mainly it was either they agree with me or just say it was god awful and not that it was uneven. I don't think that's fair because I do think uneven is the word, because I think at its best, Spider-Man was, we'll talk about Spider-Man in this live stream. Spider-Man was elite. I would say if you want to call it awful all the way around, one thing you could look to is Spider-Man was like the only thing. Alan Wake was there, which was incredible, and Assassin's Creed and things like that. But so many of those are not PlayStation exclusive. So when you're looking at a PlayStation conference 2 years after their last one, big stuff. We want to see Naughty Dog. We want to see all this stuff. They showed one. Now, yeah, you had Haven's game, which they have that partnership with, and things like that. But at the same time, CG trailers, nothing actual in game. So I could understand how you, I guess, get to awful because it was just Spider-Man. But like Alan Wake was legitimately amazing. And that's sort of the C game from the makers of Abzu and stuff. Absolutely incredible. So, but at its worst, it was awful. I mean, I think it was really bad. Generic Battle Royale rip-off games. That Square Enix game. What in God's name happened to that one, the Splatoon one? So I guess let's start. I mean, I just did my rant. What do you guys think? What were your highs and lows of the showcase?
It's like you said. Yeah, thanks. It's like you said, honestly, the highs were really, really good. There are a couple of games that really caught my eye. But again, at the lows, it was not good at all. I was going in expecting there to be many first-party PlayStation games, and it ended up being 90% just third-party games and stuff that's coming to other consoles. And I really think Spider-Man kind of saved that showcase, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those are my takes on it.
I think this is what they did unintentionally is add more fuel to the fire that the console war really doesn't exist anymore. Xbox put out a very savage tweet. And I like Wayne said, the highs were really high, but the lows were, and there were things that caught my eye, like Phantom Blade.
Yes,
really caught my eye. I am very interested in seeing more of that game and learning more about that game. And so, but when you have a lot of titles that you can find anywhere and your business model is legitimately making things console exclusive, if you're going to have your own showcase here, I think it would have been better to call it a state of play so people wouldn't have had the same expectations as they did when you change it to just a showcase. And so I think because of that reason, it disappointed a lot of people. And I've seen both sides. People say well, what did you guys expect? You guys expect too much. And it's well, you can't get mad when people are disappointed at a first party company always touting first party products, and they are making
one.
There's one, and you're making your PC players make them wait 3 months out or longer to get those games elsewhere. It's just like if you don't have enough of them, I mean, like this is why I say the console wars doesn't really exist anymore because how many do we have here?
Do you think? Because I saw this argument, and I've never like completely shook this thing off. The idea that Sony is still holding back because of the Activision Blizzard thing. Like
for sure.
And that's been floated around for so long, and then people will say like that's such a stupid mindset. I've never I don't think about it too much, but I've never fully dismissed it. But then you can't help but think Silent Hill 2, which is a console exclusive to PlayStation, it's pretty ready. Like from what we've heard, it's pretty ready. Where was it? Why was it not and if it's at Summer Games Fest, why are you giving Jeff Keighley these things? If The Last of Us is at Gamescom, why is The Last of Us at Gamescom and not at your show that you haven't had in 2 years? Like it doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, I talk about expectations all the time, and I say it's up to the person. A lot of the blame or stuff does fall on the person, but on the flip side, to defend myself a little bit and to defend the people upset, I don't think it's all that like outrageous to have expected The Last of Us. Where in God's name was Stellar Blade? Where's Twisted Metal that we do know is happening? The show is literally in 2 months from now. Where's the game? So like and I'm not asking for The Last of Us 3. I'm not asking for Uncharted 5, right? I'm asking for like 2 or 3 things that seem pretty reasonable. So that would be my counter, to that.
Wayne, did you want to say anything?
I don't, because the games that I was looking forward to, I was expecting here. I honestly, I don't know if...
What were you expecting?
Okay, I had really simple expectations. I was expecting The Last of Us Factions to be there, and I was expecting something to be shown for Wolverine, maybe a CGI trailer, another one, but I guess not. What I think might happen is we get maybe another showcase near the end of the year, but I don't think that's a possibility anymore. I feel like with Summer Games Fest on the horizon, like you said, I don't know why they're giving Jeff these things, but it seems like that would be the second option for them at the moment.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with I definitely do believe that they're holding back from Microsoft, but I don't believe that they would hold back with press conferences. And here why. They can see you, right? It doesn't matter if you put your games on your own press conference or Jeff Keighley's, it's still your game.
Yeah.
So it's like they can see you. Like it's not hiding anything. So I definitely believe that they might be willing to push certain games back further than they initially wanted to release them for the simple fact that they don't want this deal to go through. But that just tells you, so say if the deal goes through, which is kind of looking like it's gonna go that way. And if it does, all of this you did was for nothing. All you did was make the beast even more mad. All right. So it's and if the deal doesn't go through, then now you're probably going to be locked out of an agreement of Call of Duty anyway. So it's definitely a factor for sure. Right. We didn't see a lot of the things that we've seen. However, I don't think that they're going to be shown at Summer Games Fest either. If they do, it makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. If they don't, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think my first thought was The Last of Us Factions maybe is at Summer Games Fest. And then I thought exactly what you that would be the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life because only because of how close it is, right? Now Gamescom is maybe more believable because that's late August. That's 3 months away, literally 3, maybe to the day. So that's a while away. And it's a Jeff Keighley show. It's big. And also, I believe Gamescom last year is where Neil walked out, right? And they talked about the multiplayer. So it's not shocking that would happen. But yeah, if it's 2 weeks later, 2 weeks and 1 day later at his show, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't make, any sense at all. So I think Spider-Man is obviously something to get on a positive note. I'm sure we'll get back into negatives. Oh man, well, I think all three of us are into it. Obviously, you, Wayne, have been absolutely freaking crushing it on Twitter for the longest time. What'd you guys think of what they showed?
I was speechless, honestly. I was blown away. I was expecting it to be good, but like
Yeah.
they took my expectations, blew it up to like 100, and
Yeah.
my goodness, what
When
was
did
that?
that hit? Did it hit like when Spider-Man jumped out of like the
Okay, so
base?
I actually remember exactly when it hit for me that this was Spider-Man 2. You know that scene where fake Craven is like looking at the leaf with the blood on it? The
Yeah.
moment I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is leading into Craven. And that's when everything hit. And I was like,
Yeah.
yep, we're getting it now. It's real.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I knew what it was simply because they spoiled it themselves.
No,
They
yeah,
said before we get to the final thing,
Yeah.
but the moment I seen the jungle, because I knew Craven's voice from in like normally he has a very noticeable accent anytime somebody does him or portrays him.
Yeah.
And so all I needed to see was the jungle, and that was it. And that's exactly where it was. And I legitimately jumped out. Like, I mean, you can see my Twitter reaction. I was in all caps, but like legitimately, like I was sitting at the edge of my bed watching that TV. And the moment the jungle hit, I just jumped out I jumped off. I was like, oh, it's happening, it's happening. And I'm like, all right, I got to tweet. It's happening. And then I'm like, so it was a whole excitement thrill. I'm super excited for it. Super.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing the like as soon as he jumps out with the symbiote, and and then he's got the
Right.
black suit. It's like, all right, it's game time.
Yeah.
It jumps to Miles, and he's and it doesn't have to spend too much time on that, right? Because it's like we know how good the swinging is, but then they do the web wings like immediately, and it's like, oh, you can imagine because of how good the web swinging is in that game that like gliding is going to have a real good feel to it.
Yeah.
But just like I think they just nailed it at every single point. You see some new powers, some new abilities. Emphasis on stealth, or when Miles takes out two. I saw you said Sway in your thread, but the double takedown. I noticed that immediately. I was like, thank God, because that's going to be very helpful when the game comes out. I think there were some like performance, like visual things that definitely need to be ironed out. We'll get to the whole release thing as well. I think that's probably like a reason of it. What did you guys think of the Uncharted 4 like on rails? Because it was beautiful. But what did you guys think about the on rails thing at the end?
So you go first, and then I'll go.
Are we talking about like the last
Like the helicopter, the on the water.
Yes.
Very reminiscent of Uncharted 4 in the Jeep with
yes.
All that stuff.
I loved it. That whole chasing sequence was brilliant. What made it even better was the character moments while it was happening, and so much was happening. You had Miles save a civilian in like a second. You had like Peter rarely, but he's cracking jokes. He's still in there. And then just seeing Lizard, who somebody I say compared to Curly Crow.
I saw that one. That was funny.
He does look similar. I would say that, but that was a look. But I did like the whole chase sequence. I did like how they ended up handling the helicopter and like alley-ooping it, and it was just beautifully done, I think, all the way through. It felt cinematic. It felt like this was a movie from a game, then back to a movie, then back to a game. Like it was flawless, seamless transition.
Yeah, bouncing off of what Sway said about it being like a cinematic going back into a game, there were a lot of people that played the game in the past and they said the exact same thing, that it looks like a cutscene the entire time around. What I love most was the fact that we know we're in Queens, but I'm looking around and I don't recognize any of the buildings. And I'm like, we have a entire new city to swing around in, which I just think is so awesome with like the gliding mechanics and everything.
We were in the suburbs.
Suburbs, yeah.
And Sway, you said it, like the swapping between them, and so cinematic and so dynamic of them. A little banter, and they have to cross paths, right? They're both doing something. They kind of go and do opposite directions, and it mixes in some quick time events. Some things that are a little bit more controlled, and then you're doing some more things. Like they did really well. And you mentioned Miles saving the civilian, and then obviously I don't want to talk about this with Peter, right? So with the suit. I noticed, obviously, like you notice it with his attitude and just the way he's talking, but even like at that last cutscene when he like throws that civilian, right? He like pushes him, and Miles kind of like helps him up, or he's like kind of confused of like why he was so aggressive to that one civilian. What'd you guys think of even the subtle moments, but also like the big moments? How long do you think he's had the suit on? Because Miles says right, like nice new thing. So is this the first time Miles sees it? What do you guys think of the whole symbiote?
So based off of Peter's dialogue, I remember he said something like Harry's dying. So
Yep.
he's met Harry already, which means the symbiote probably isn't on Harry anymore, and that's why he's dying. So I think it's been a couple of months since he's had that symbiote, and he kept it low key until he got the hang of it, and now he's kind of out with it in public, and now Miles sees it for the first time, and that's where it goes.
Where do you think this scene is in the game? Do you think it's
I'd
like 10,
say
15?
it's late Act 1. Like Act 1 is just about to end. The same thing they did with the Miles gameplay feature, where
Yeah.
they showed like the whole bridge sequence. I think it's similar to that.
Yeah.
I think that Peter. I think that the scene takes place a little later in the game. There are a few dialogue because I'm thinking of the plot and like he's talking about Craven like when he's swinging at one point. He said like, "Okay, Craven, you want to come here and do this and do that." Unless Craven is just making an abrupt like entrance, I feel like he would have had to ease his way in for people to kind of know who he is, kind of thing. And then also the fact that at the end of Miles, Norman calls Connors to help him, obviously, with Harry and the symbiote. So the fact that the symbiote isn't on Harry at this point lets me know that they did not get the result that they want out of it, and Dr. Connors does not understand what it is either. And the symbiote likes a strong host, so it probably went after Peter. So I don't think that Peter's had it that long at all. I don't think that he understands it at all because it constantly changes your personality. So that's why I would lean towards like it's not something he could have had for a while because it would have been noticeable quite quickly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it as a mix really of what both of you have said. Like I don't think this is, because I think some people were saying that they are theorizing like it's super like in the first couple hours. I think we're talking more like hour 6, 7,
Yep.
like Wayne said, like a little bit towards the end of the first third of the game. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's possible he's like used the suit on his, but like you know from the dialogue, right? This is Miles' first time seeing it. So like, how often are they on like patrol together? How is this the first time he's literally used it in a public setting before? Probably. So yeah, I mean that to me is like the most interesting thing about it. What'd you guys think of? Well, they did the thing. They did the swapping, right? They did. I called it. I mean, we knew it was going to happen, but I do want to say I said that they were going to show swapping in the gameplay footage, and we did. So what do you guys think of a seamless just change from one to the other? How often do you think you'll do that in the game? Being able to swap.
Okay, first I was like super impressed with like it was pretty much instantaneous. You press square and all of a sudden your mouse. How often we're doing that? That's a good question because at the end of the trailer you see like Peter going off and chasing Connor. So it's funny because I'm thinking maybe sometimes you're gonna be stuck to one character at a certain point in the story and you're gonna have to play as them. But then other times you're able to just freely switch and then do missions that are dedicated to Peter and then do missions dedicated to Miles. And then they both come together and then do a mission together. That's how I'm thinking it's gonna go. But I feel like there's definitely segments where you'll be forced to play as a single character for like a beat. And
right. Yep.
I don't think that we'll be able to do it on command that often. I believe that it'll probably be a post game thing where we can swap through as we please, or even like later on. Because if you look at like the UI while you're playing, like normally in things like that, you'd see like the section kind of grayed out if you can't choose another character. I'm thinking like Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
And square is generally the attack button, so I don't think that to swap it would be square. I just think in that moment it was square.
Right.
But I don't think that it would be that often. Like out of all the times we've seen them switch off like what 2-3 times. And you didn't press square for any of those other times. The game just did it. Right. So and you were already in the middle of a mission when you did press square to switch. So I think that it's going to be something that the game, for narrative reasons, just does when it wants, and then maybe after the game is over, like you completed the story, they will let you kind of swap through however they're going to do, probably from a main menu, because once again, I don't see anything in the UI that's going to let you quickly do it. But yeah, that's what I would suspect at least.
Yeah, that's something. I think they'll hold your hand. They'll make you, follow their rules for most of it. It's possible, like in maybe the very beginning, or at least maybe after like the opening, and then like the end, like the post game stuff. Maybe you'll be able to kind of switch them organically for like the side stuff. ACG was saying on Twitter, he had heard in the game that they were like revamping the side stuff, the crimes and whatnot. So we didn't get to see that, but that's something that I'm sure they'll show more of. And want to get to a couple of these comments. One of you two, don't let me forget the release date thing. I definitely want to talk about the release date. But let's do a couple of these comments first. Are we getting Miles versus Peter Spider-Man boss fight? I think yes. I predicted that like 2.5 years ago. I think it's kind of obvious, right? He'll become so bad that Miles has to knock some sense into him, literally.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a specific scene when Peter breaks down into the lab and you see his like symbiote tentacles like forming in, and it's creating this really like creepy atmosphere. I think that was a really good foreshadowing moment for like the boss fight, because I think that's exactly how it's going to go with the roles reversed, and Peter's like angry at Miles this time, and that's how the boss fight maybe begins. I just think that's a really cool foreshadow.
You could already see it. Like he was kind of, he wasn't like ever super mad at Miles. Like even when Miles said like, we lost him, I was kind of expecting Peter to like snap on him. He didn't. But you imagine that was the first time that they're together, right? Maybe they're going to be together again, and he's going to get more snappy at Miles, and then they'll, elevate from there. Kind of unrelated, but would you like to see Reverse Flash in the new MK game? That'd be sweet. I had to shout this comment out. That's because that's neat. Okay, I'm like just a lot of back and forth stuff in the chat, which we like to see. If there's any specific questions, just ask to us, we'll answer. What do you guys think? The release, this is and I said this, that this is really reflective of the entire show, right? So it had extremely good, and then it had extremely like confusing choices. So this encapsulated the whole show. Amazing showcase. Again, there's some polish that I do absolutely think needs to be made. And then you end it saying fall 2023, when that is 4 months away. So I'm thinking not September. I'm thinking like November. Like I'm thinking it got delayed. So what do you guys, do you read into it? Do you not? I guess, what do you think about that?
I think there's still a very tiny possibility that it comes out in September, and maybe they're just pushing the marketing all for like August. I know that's what Tony Todd said, and maybe internal delays happen and it got pushed forward. But I still think there's a really tiny chance. I was disappointed they didn't give us a release date, because I had my credit card just sitting out like ready to pre-order the collector's edition. And I saw fall 2023, and I was like, okay, maybe they'll show it later in the months. But yeah, just a tiny bit of disappointment. But I know it's coming out this year, so that's all I really care about.
That's good.
I want to echo what you said about the pre-order, because
you two are both doing it. You know it.
I had GameStop open. I had Best Buy open.
Exactly.
Amazon. I was ready, and then nothing happened. But when it comes to that release date, I have a different mindset towards it, because you publicly put yourself into a time period that you didn't have to do, especially this close to it, almost, because we're in summer and fall is going to be right around the corner, and you specifically said fall, which I was confused about why you wouldn't give a release date if you're that close. I mean, Mortal Kombat just gave you September, and they're that close.
And here's what I would throw in: Mortal Kombat did it last week. But then look at the two other big games at the showcase, Alan Wake and Assassin's Creed. They both got dates, and they're in October 12th and 17th. So you got two big games that gave mid-October dates. So to me, that's how I rationalize it. To me, Spider-Man is not coming out before mid-October because Assassin's Creed and Alan Wake said that. So there's really no reason why you couldn't give a date. Even if it's early or late October, you could still give a date. So I think it's because they're thinking, all right, maybe we can do October, but maybe November, maybe around Black Friday, and they don't know the date themselves, and that's why they just say, fall. That's how I read it.
Agreed. And I think that with that being the case, it's just you could have just said 2000. But here's the other thing. They could have just said 2023, right?
Yeah.
They could have just said that and they didn't. So that's why I'm like, maybe that they're mostly confident that they'll be ready for, fall, but they're not completely sure. Yeah. So I could see a November release date for sure, but it just was confusing how you put that date there, like with that time period there, and you're very close to approaching it. Like it's going to be last minute if it is fall. It's going to be very last minute.
Yeah, like if it's September, it's not bold. Well, it is. I think if it's September, it's bold to have not done it yesterday and to do it at some point.
With Mortal Kombat and Starfield too, and is this a PS5 exclusive?
This is only PS5, yeah.
So that's going to make it even that might play a factor in, because although a lot of people have PS5 systems, is Starfield for Xbox and PC, correct?
I think it's for everything. Yeah, I think it's for all of the Xboxes.
Okay, so if it's for Xbox and PC, the sales might look better for. I don't know what they're looking at.
Starfield's on Game Pass. I don't think Starfield's actually going to sell that incredible. I think it'll get like 20 million players and it'll be through Game Pass, which is fine. I'm not to the console warriors out there. That's what they want. So yeah, I'm also not complaining. Like, I'm complaining in the fact that I think, again, it encapsulates the whole show that they nailed it, and then you say fall, and it's like it's just such an odd, confusing thing to say. Specifically because then afterwards we just got the report, or Insomniac said it to somebody on Twitter, they will reveal the release date soon. So again, just like The Last of Us, are you going to do it in 2 weeks? Why couldn't you just do it now? But anyway, I'm not complaining actually about if the game comes out in November, because we are stacked. You got Starfield and MK in September. That's enough. Starfield will take months. October now has Alan Wake and Assassin's Creed. Good, done. And then November has Spider-Man. I mean, that's an elite, and there's more. There's definitely going to be more. Those are 5 games in 3 months that are game of the year kind of, big games. So I'm not complaining. I actually want Spider-Man. To be honest, I want it to release in November. Don't put it out in September.
I can't handle September. It's Mortal Kombat. That's 2 collector's editions in 1 month. Please no. Please no.
Yeah, and that's just what we know. I mean, Ubisoft, Xbox still has to go. Does Hellblade come out in like December? Then you got 4 months in a row. Is there a surprising thing that they, announce? Ubisoft, so Avatar probably still comes out in the fall as well. So there'll be games. There'll definitely be games. Indiana Jones, I think, is no. I actually did a video on that. I forgot this. It's years, man. If you look into it, it's years away. They just started when they did that trailer, that 1 minute. They started at like, I think 5 months before that is when they. So that game's like right now it's probably like 3-4 years away. What other villains you guys want to see in Spider-Man 2? What do you think?
The ones I wanted were, I believe I made a tweet about this. I think it was Mysterio, which now I'm thinking isn't really going to be a possibility just because I feel the game will be too cramped. Connors was one of them, which we've seen. I think Green Goblin might show up in this game. I feel like Harry dies, and that motivates Norman Osborn to turn into Green Goblin. I think that's a pretty big possibility. And there's a fourth, but I can't remember who it was. So Sway, you can take it now.
I always want to see Green Goblin. However, I think that he's the overarching villain of the series, kind of. So I think that they're going to make him the third one. But I do agree, like, if Harry dies, that could be the motivation to push him in.
Right.
But that's with it being such a personal story between him and Peter. Normally, in most cases, in the comic books and in animated series, I think that you would want to have a whole game out of that.
Right.
So I would put him at 3. The villains for this one, I would say Hydro Man. I would like to see Mysterio, but just like you said, like
Yeah.
I don't know how confident I am.
Yeah.
The Chameleon, I would like to see, and man,
I'll throw in Sandman.
Sandman is a good one.
Yeah.
He's
That's
top
4.
tier for me. He's a personal favorite. Let's see. Well, people boycott Alan Wake too. I do want to talk. We will talk about things other than Spider-Man. So maybe this is a good out. So I assume that comment is because of the not releasing on physical. So I don't know how you guys want to take that. I don't know how into Alan Wake you guys are, but what do you think specifically about it not coming out physically? It's just digital. I'm not a fan at all. I'm not going to boycott it. I guess I'm too selfish in that way, but that is a really bad move. And to me, that's a scary move because this is a big game. Mm-hmm. This is not one of their excuses in their FAQ was, well, other games do it. Well, yeah, like Stray did it. Kena Bridge of Spirits did it, but you're Alan Wake too. Like, this is a big AAA game. Those are not AAA games. So what if Sony looks at this and says, ooh, good idea. Like, let's do it for let's do it for Spider-Man. I mean, they won't do it for that, but maybe the next Spider-Man, right, won't be a physical version. So what do you guys think about that situation?
I honestly haven't played the first one yet. I do have it purchased, but I will play it, I promise. On the topic though, I do think it's a bit odd that you do digital sales only. I know they said it was to reduce the cost of the entire game, but I think it's still gonna hurt them because I know there's a big chunk of people that prefer to buy their games physical, and they won't get to do that now. And another thing, I don't know if this is the case in the US, but in Canada specifically, they up the prices a lot. I know there was the regular edition of Dead Island 2 that was $93 here for the standard one. Yeah. And I don't know if it's going to be the same thing here, but I know it's going to hurt in the long run for sure.
Yeah.
I am a physical person first and foremost.
Right.
And so a decision like that definitely scares me because we've already seen PlayStation try it with a few things. Like, I believe with Horizon, actually, which I do have the collector's edition for, but but what I believe it was, you did not get a physical disc in there. You got a code. You got the steel book. You got everything else in there, but you did not get the physical disc. And that's something that irks me to no end because why do I have this thing here? And why is it so hard to get physical media here? Because as a person, me personally, my reasoning for loving physical media is for one, game preservation, and two, with so many agreements and so many things going digital, if your account gets hacked, for example, you have to start all over. If you can't get that account back, you have to legitimately start all over. Everything that you purchased, you cannot get back. At least if I have the disc or I have the physical copy, I may not have my saves on there, but I can put it in my console if my account gets hacked, and I don't have to rebuy that game all over again. So it's things like that I don't want to go to an all digital for its future, because although I don't mind buying digital games, I don't want to be trapped into that.
You're seeing it with Disney Plus. Disney Plus just removed like 100 things or whatever on Hulu, and so those things are gone. Okay, like that to me, that is the reason why people should care, is when EA tells you that the Bad Company games are going away forever. Isn't that bad? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When they accidentally put Mirror's Edge in that press release, and it's like, wait, that's a single player game. There's no servers or anything. And they said, oh, that was on accident. I don't think it was on accident. I think eventually they're going to take the first Mirror's Edge game off. So yeah, it's not going to affect people. Like this Alan Wake thing will not affect people now. It won't affect people in 5 years. But what about in 10 years? What about in 15 years? They'll cut the fact that a lot of these PS3 era, 360 era games you can't play now unless you have the disc. Like, so that is the future, and it's a very scary future. So yeah, for the longest time, I didn't really care like at all about gaming preservation. Now I sincerely, over the last like year, I really care. I don't even have that many physical games, but the ones I have, I care about, and I want to keep them around. So yeah, I am not a fan of it, and I'm that Sway that the hacking thing. I never thought about that.
Yeah,
like,
neither did I, and it's scaring me now.
Yeah, thanks for opening us up now
Yeah.
to a cyber hack. No, I mean, that's a good point. Like, I just think too, eventually the companies are going to say it's too much money to keep that game. That's like multiplayer, right? To keep the servers running. But they may just say, well, we don't care about the game anymore. It's been 15 years. We're taking the game off digital. The game's now gone. Literally, it's gone. But to your point, it could be gone at any point if you just get hacked once. Like, you don't have to have EA be greedy, and that'll happen anyway. EA will be greedy, So, yeah, no, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of and Alan Wake. That's such a big game. Like, again, Stray. All right, fine, Stray. But even Stray, I think like there's some companies that'll step in and say, well, we'll do like a 2,000 game run where we'll have physical versions and we'll only sell a couple thousand units. At least they exist,
Right.
So I hope they reverse that. But on the positive side, Alan Wake did look insanely good.
Yeah, it
was
gorgeous.
So I know, I think Sway had mentioned Phantom Blade earlier. Is there any games that I wrote every single one down? Now that I can remember it, like if I look at one, I'm not going to be able to remember it. But is there any games like not Spider-Man or Alan Wake or Assassin's Creed that stood out to you guys in a good or bad way? I don't remember what the Square Enix game. What was it called? Do you guys remember the Square Enix ripoff one? I don't remember.
I don't know, but I call it foam.
Foam.
Because that's all it was foam.
I can't remember. Oh, Foam Stars.
So it actually was
halfway there.
Halfway there. Can I go on a rant real quick? You guys can rant about Foam Stars.
Please go for it.
What are they doing? Okay, let's talk about Square. Can we talk about Square Enix really fast? What in God's name is happening over there, right? You got Kingdom Hearts, you got Final Fantasy, you'll always have My Love. You have Life is Strange still. So that's one of the Western games they did not sell off, right? So they sold off pretty much everything else. They only care Western-wise about Life is Strange. For some unknown reason, because the second one is complete garbage, okay? I'll throw that out there as well. And then they're going into the NFT stuff. You just had Forspoken come out, and it did its thing. And now you're coming out with what can only be described as Splatoon, but with foam. And then the music is Persona music. So you have a Persona musically inspired Splatoon 3 game that definitely is going to have like NFTs. It's definitely a battle royale, and it's definitely, it's like a 4v4, and it's definitely a live service that's going to want as much of your money as possible. Like, why are we doing this? Why can't Square Enix not do, it's actually shocking. And it actually scares me too that that is probably Sony's target to acquire. Like, when all this Microsoft stuff is done, I imagine Sony buys Square Enix. Now, maybe they only take the good stuff, like just demand Final Fantasy, Life is Strange, and Kingdom Hearts and leave everything else. But I did you laugh at that? I laughed when I saw the
I saw the logo of Square Enix and I was hyped, and then I saw 6 characters pop up, and I immediately was like, "This is a multiplayer game. Nope, I'm not interested."
As soon as those 3 characters, they were like running towards the screen or something, and they had like the guns on their back, and I was like, "Done, I'm finished."
Yeah.
It was like the first thing, because you see Square Enix, and the last thing that I feel like a lot of people remember is Avengers.
Right.
Or no, that was was that Square Enix?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the moment I seen the new characters, I thought, that moment in SpongeBob where that guy was like, "How many times do we have to tell you this, old man?" It was just, I just could not believe what I was watching. I'm like, I'm trying to keep an open mind. I still have an open mind. Like, this could actually feel fun, but it's just why? What was this? It's kind of different. when they don't have the necessary structure, like say at Microsoft, where they're like, "Well, do what the team feels like you want to be creative." This feels like somebody told them, like, "We need that, so make it."
Definitely.
Like,
They see Splatoon and they say, "This is strange." And like to your point, Splatoon is really fun, and it's
oh,
so
definitely.
this could be good. I doubt it that it could be good, but yeah, you absolutely know somebody said, "I don't know how Splatoon sells 10 to 15 million units each game," because it does. Splatoon is like an underrated, like incredible seller. So you know, someone at Square Enix said, "This seems pretty easy. You shoot things like it's colorful, and let's just but you can't use paint. So what's also colorful you can strap to a foam. Foam is almost the same exact thing. So we're kind of playing it a little too close, but Nintendo are like the least like aggressive company out there. Maybe they won't even care. Now, did they think about that? Nintendo goes after people. They'll go after your family for like anything. And yet you have Square Enix flat out ripping off Splatoon. You don't think Nintendo you think Nintendo has anything to say about that, or you think they're not even like concerned about it?
When it comes to other things in the gaming industry that they innovate on, I feel like they just like the idea of innovating, because you think about the Wii, right? PlayStation, soon after the PlayStation 3 came out with the whole, they tried to do the Wii, and then even now they're trying to
I
do
would
the
say the
Switch
iToy
with the
did the Wii
detachables.
first, though. I'd say the iToy was first. Sony
True,
did
true.
have the Wii first, and then Nintendo ran with it.
And then like with the Switch, how right now, like that new handheld that PlayStation tried to market, that is
Yeah.
probably severely under spec with the other competitors out there right now. And the awkward looking for the controller, like it just seems like it's completely awkward. But I
Yeah.
feel like Nintendo just does not. They probably sit back and laugh, like they're not coming close to, like, you're not gonna get the result we're getting. Like, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's how they look at it. Like, you can try, it's not gonna make us look better type thing.
Yeah. That's fair. That's a good point. They've been stolen from before, and they make the money. So yeah, they probably look at it and say, you know, like there's no way that's gonna work. They probably are
Yeah.
laughing at it. So is there any games that stood out to you guys that we want to kind of shout out in a positive light?
So I did point it out. Phantom Blade was the only other one that like really caught me off guard, and I was like, "Damn, I need this as
Yeah.
soon as it comes out." It's
When was the moment for me? It's when he like stabbed
right.
somebody and he stabbed somebody from
Yeah,
behind.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was literally the moment because it was good before then, but that was the first gameplay. I was like, oh my god, what
yeah,
I think I said in the live stream, what did he just do? And then
yeah.
he's like blocking like lightsaber like things and going, oh my god, it was so good.
It's odd because it looks like a Soulsborne game, but it doesn't feel like a Soulsborne game because the combat is just not for
Yeah.
something you'd expect from it. So I'm really interested.
Yeah.
Same thing, like it would be Phantom Blade. Like in that moment that you were talking about, I had that moment twice yesterday. It was that moment, and it was the moment when Spider-Man had that enemy against the house and he just started like
Yeah.
he bicycle kicked him. I said, he turned into Liu Kang here. So those were both of the moments that I had. But Phantom Blade just kind of, I just wasn't expecting it, especially like when they first like announced what it was in the studio, and then like you started to see the trailer, and as it's unfolding, and then they started showing more and more gameplay, and I'm oh, oh, it's great. So Phantom Blade stole the show for me, honestly. That was the unexpected surprise.
My chat, we were convinced for at least the first like 20-30 seconds it was still Rise of the Ronin, because we're like, have we seen this game before, and this is just like an extended look, and then but as it kept going, it's like, no, this has to be new. Like the way he's moving around, like it's just freaking nuts. I'd like to throw out Sword of the Sea, which I mentioned earlier. That's the Journey looking one. Which oh my god, Journey
Yes.
looks. I mean, Journey is one of my.
Beautiful art
Sway. We
style.
mentioned music. Journey is one of the
Journey.
best music games out there. And also Sound Chase, by the way, for music. No, yeah, that game looks insane. And as soon as I started to, actually, the opening shot was the sand, and I was like, "Is this Journey 2?" Because the first thing, it looked like Journey, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is what I've always wanted." But I've never thought about a Journey 2. But if I were to see one, I would of course want it.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Final Fan. Oh yeah, I am Final Fan. But you know what I forget? So I mentioned like some of the games that like should have been there. I keep forgetting 7 Rebirth. Like, why wasn't that? I mean, now that one makes maybe sense because of 16, but I think you could have done it. But yeah, 16 continues to look good. Street Fighter looked good again. Dragon's Dogma 2, can't forget about that. That was great to see that. I think a lot of people have forgotten about it, and I've seen some tweets on it to like make people remember. Helldivers, which was the second game they showed. Helldivers 2 I never played the first one, but Helldivers 2 looks really good. I thought it was like a Starship Troopers thing at first. I was like, what is this? What did you do when they showed the Gran Turismo movie trailer?
I pretty much almost lost it because I was like, at this point, they're just trolling us because there's no way. But I mean, we got Spider-Man at the end, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I kind of knew that was like, as soon as I seen like Gran Turismo pop on the screen, I kind of figured it was the movie. Like, especially because I'd seen the trailer from going to the movies and they've been showing it there more. So it was like, you're doing this. Okay.
Like, and I'm looking at the order. That was after we got Concord, which is another first-person shooter from oh god, I don't remember the name. It's not Haven, or it's not Haven Studios. It's somebody else. But anyway, like we got Concord, and it was like a minute of just CGI trailer, so you have no idea what the game is. They had a blog post where they're so excited about it, and it's like, maybe it's because I've just gotten older and I've gotten like more cranky and stuff, but we need to stop the CG trailer. Like, put a stop to it right now, firstly. And secondly, I'm really tired of these games, like that marathon game from Bungie. When you don't show anything that tells me what the game really is, and they're all just first-person online shooters. There was like 4 of them at the show. There was like 4 of them, maybe more. And then they have these blog posts or videos where they talk about how exciting it is and how every match is its own story. And it's like, guys, firstly, does anybody really think like that? You're just kind of pumping it up. And secondly, you can only think so much about a game. Like, why did you even do a blog post on Concord? What do we know about? Do you guys even remember Concord? If I quizzed you on it? No? Okay. Because it was the thing shown right before Gran Turismo. So Gran Turismo probably stole the show from it. But like, I just don't. That was the confusing part about the showcase. It's like there were several of these.
This just brought something to my attention. I thought about it long and hard.
Go ahead.
Something that really grinds my gears here. We didn't see in that Gran Turismo trailer how long, and this is the perfect chance for you to show the Twisted Metal, like more Twisted Metal stuff. Like, even if you didn't want to do the game, but the show. Where was a new trailer at for that? It's about to come out soon.
Show a trailer for,
Where was any of it? Like, you gave us stuff that I honestly, that did not cross my, it didn't compute to me.
I thought when I was watching Gran Turismo, I was laughing and I kept saying, like, what is this? Why are we doing this? But one of the things I was thinking of, the first thing is Twisted Metal. I thought I'd rather have it for the show because the show comes out a month earlier than that movie. And we also only have a teaser for the show. Let's see some of these characters interacting. We really didn't see all that much, like, at all. And like, I don't know. You had the Battle Royale corner. You had all these first-person shooters, which I'm going to try, like, so many of these games. I guess granted, right? Like, I'll try Concord. I'll try these things. I'm not really excited for them. We just went through the PSVR2 little alley at that time, like Synapse, or however you say it, Synapse. Arizona Sunshine 2, who could forget, because who played the first one? So you just had those. Then you have Concord, which shows literally nothing. Marathon was right before that. And then you have Gran Turismo. Then you had Project Q and the earbuds. And then you had Spider-Man. Wow, just so inconsistent. Actually, the ending was really bad. I think I'll say the last 30 minutes was awful. And then Spider-Man was good. That was, like, I want to give a quick thing to Ghost Runner 2. Now, I didn't play the first one, but I did add it to my library because it's on PS Plus. Everybody talks so highly about Ghost Runner, so I got to try. Do you guys play Ghost Runner?
I did.
Oh, cool. I never did.
Same thing for me. Yeah, I have it in my
Dude.
library, but I'm willing to try it out.
Yeah, I'm trying it now because that second one looks freaking
Yeah,
sweet, and it's only
definitely.
been like the first one came out in 2020, so it really hasn't even been
Right.
that long.
I think you guys will really enjoy it. Like it's a good
Yeah.
time. It's a kind of like one though. Like you can kind of shut your brain off to it, but there are certain times where you definitely need to use it. But it's definitely satisfying.
Yeah,
Right,
it looks
yeah.
like Mirror's Edge, like a
Yeah.
fast action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is freaking sweet. Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean. That was elite, I'd say. That was a good name. Trying to Tear Down. Now, Tear Down is that Minecraft looking, like everything can break.
Right.
That's on PC, I think, already, right? So that game is not. Oh, one thing we completely skipped over is MGS, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Did you guys? Did you know? Like, I didn't know until it showed him that it
Yeah,
was.
I didn't either. I thought it was food chain simulator game at first, and then they showed Snake, and I was like, yeah, this is Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I would have preferred a new one though.
New one without Kojima though. That's almost off the charts for me.
Yeah, like I they would need to work something out with him or give him the rights back, which they're never going to. No. So, but the franchise is too like. You might be right. It might be better to just leave it alone versus it just.
I don't know if they can write it without him. Like I just don't. Like BioShock without Ken Levine, is it gonna really be BioShock? You would get that with Kojima. You'd say, is that really? You know what I mean? Maybe they could do it, but also maybe they can't do it.
I just want a good quality like Metal Gear Solid, like a brand new one. But I want Kojima writing it. That's just like, why can't we have these things? But and that's all that reminded me of. Like I know everybody, like I've seen like the internet was excited, everybody was excited. And I'm like, I'm excited, but I want another one. And it's like I can't have one.
Yeah. We with MGS 1, 2, and 3 original games coming to PS5, will MG4 come next? Well, it's this was what they call it. They didn't say it wasn't volume.
It was Snake Eater.
Snake Eater. Well, so they're remaking the third game, Snake Eater, but they're doing, and I don't remember what they called it. Is it the first collection, Collection 1, Volume 1? But they had 1 in it, and it was MGS 1, 2, and 3, but it's different versions of them. It's the HD one from like several gens ago. So yeah, I basically, long story short, I think this is the first of several collections. They'll put some of the PSP games on it. That's what they'll do, which is good. Konami is really, like, Castlevania is surprisingly easy to find, like, many of the Castlevania games on current gen right now. Konami, for whatever reason, historically, Capcom does it too. Like, they'll just redo their games in collections and remasters and putting it to the next gen. So many companies don't do that, but like Konami, they try, I think, to give you collections and, oh, it's not on PS5 yet. Well, here's the collection for, almost like Square Enix does for Kingdom Hearts, which I hate, but also at the same time, I guess I respect that you can play all the Kingdom Hearts games in so many ways. So yeah, 4 is definitely, like, you'll be able to play 4 on PS5, I think, eventually, for sure. Horrible showcase, my last review. I never heard. Yeah, Marathon was announced at the showcase, I believe. That was the first time we ever heard of it. Talos Principle 2, that looked good. I never played the first one.
That did look good.
So, and Kojima is doing an Xbox game, but also Death Stranding. Do 2 games at once. He's too busy. He can't even do Metal Gear, even if he wanted to. We're approaching the end of the hour. It actually, I think, worked rather well. Give me your summaries. Give me your final thoughts on the showcase.
I think, aside from 2 or 3 games, I think the overall showcase was really disappointing, in my opinion, because I went there expecting a lot of first-party games to be shown, and I ended up just getting what I'd usually get at a State of Play. So,
yeah.
I walked in with no expectations other than Spider-Man. I was scared for a minute because there was no Spider-Man. Last prediction, me and Alex were thinking like, they could, start off with Spider-Man, but then I was like, I'm gonna just go with the flow. So I went in with no expectations, and other than Phantom Blade, there was no surprises. Like, and I don't know, like if maybe unintentionally, I subconsciously had expectations that maybe I didn't realize. But I'm like, there's no Sly surprise here. There's no Uncharted surprise. There's no Wolverine footage. There's no where are these games?
Right.
And I was like, there's nothing here to really sink your teeth into except for Phantom Blade, Spider-Man, and just a few other games that they had like 4-5 games that they showed that I think were things you could really get excited for, but it wasn't nearly enough. Like the bad out, it was weird. The bad outweighed the good as far as like in the amount of numbers they came in, but the quality of the good outweighed the quality of the bad.
Right. That's actually a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, I would say just barely. Like I would give
Barely,
the show
yeah.
like a C, like whatever that is, like a 5 or 6 out of 10, and it's only because like Spider-Man. If I were to give it like a 5 or 6, Spider-Man has to be like at least 3 of those points. And like Alan Wake is like a 1.5, and Assassin's Creed shocked me because I didn't think that would be there because Ubisoft's event is in 2 weeks, but I guess they don't care. So there were a couple things like that, but yeah, like you had all these games for 2024, but like Wolverine's in 2024,
Right.
so you know what I mean. And Last of Us is most likely in 2024, so that's another thing that makes me, now that you say it, Sway, that makes me mad because you did have games that said 2024 like at the end of it, and I'm sure there are some games there that were going to get pushed to even further, like 2025. Now, like Ghost 2, could you have done a logo for that? Could you have done a logo for, like, there is an Uncharted game. Come on, there is. Can we get a logo for the Uncharted game? Can we get them to say it? Like, that's just the thing that, yeah, Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma gets half a point because we already knew it was real and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that gives it points. But then, like, Foam Stars is like negative 3. So it makes balance out, All right. Well, if you haven't followed Mr. Wayne on Twitter, his Twitter link is in the description along with Sway's stuff, his Twitter, his website, fun page, and all that stuff. We want to thank you, buddy. Thanks so much for being on this episode
My
and for talking
pleasure.
with us.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Of course. Is there anything you guys or Sway, you want to sign off? Whatever you guys want to say to end it.
Thank you again, Mr. Wayne, for coming on. It was a pleasure. I love having you on here. We got to do this
No
again.
problem, man. Really appreciate it.
And to everybody in the comments, thank you so much for your comments. We are reading them. I have been scrolling them the entire time. I always appreciate the interaction, and thank you guys for the support always, truly. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Show continues to grow. Another great episode, episode 25, and Sway and I got a couple pre-recorded stuff coming, but we're going up. So we appreciate you guys' support, watching live, watching afterwards as well, and we'll see you all on the next one.